like to call this meeting of the planning board to order. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have May 16, 2024 for the record, September 19, 24, October 3rd, 24, November 7th, 24, November 21st, 2024, December 5th, 2024, and December 19th, 2024, which are going to be deferred to a later date for review. They're in the works. We do have January 2nd, 2025 minutes before us. Do we have any comments or revisions that need to be made? No comments, no changes. Could I have a motion then to approve the minutes of January 2nd as prepared?
Place the motion.
Diana, second by?
Second.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Is Neil coming up? Did Neil vote on
I will come up.
that? I'm gonna write Neil down as an aye.
Are you an aye, Neil?
Yes.
Neil is an aye. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for Uniplank, 12-1-117. It's an application for a site plan and special permit for the conversion of warehouse to light industry on 5.3 acres, New York State Route 17M in an HC district with an AQ6 overlay. First off, do we have anyone from the public here for this public hearing? Okay. We will get to you. You know the routine.
Thank you.
And if you could, once you're set up, if you could just introduce yourself for the record and give a presentation as far as what's being proposed for the property.
Yes, I'll actually start it up right now. I apologize if the roads were not the best out there.
No apology.
I'm here on behalf of the project for Uniplank here. It is a change of use from the existing European outdoors. The existing European outdoors will actually remain with roughly about 1,000 or 10,000 square feet in approximately, and then I believe the Uniplank will have a total of potentially 25,000 square feet with an additional 7,000 square feet of a mezzanine. And the end use of the Uniplank will be furnished, pre-finished cabinets, I believe it was. It was an assembly. So the only thing on site will just be cutting, furnishing, assembling of the cabinet, and then it will be material will be delivered. They will do that and we'll take it away. There will be no increase in traffic, which should be the usual trucks going in and out, especially with decrease in the Uniplank. We're proposing, here I'll turn this so that way you guys can see it as well. All we're proposing is to change the proposed wall mounted for a Uniplank sign and remove the existing European outdoor sign will be removed to meet the compliance there. And we will have the commercial sign right here that will stay out front and remaining and it will be changed to Uniplank. The only thing we're going to change is propose this gravel roadway back here to be a 20-foot wide paved roadway. We're not going to do any reconstruction of parking lots, no repaving of any of this back here. We actually had one of our field guys go out there and just do a septic dye testing to make sure that the system was functioning, there's no problems.
Where exactly is the septic system on the property?
Yeah, it's right here in the back, right coming out the backside. So that's
Where all those cleanouts are?
Yep, where all those cleanouts are. I apologize. Yes, and we actually had one of our guys go out there. He did septic dye testing. It's really flush, about 100 gallons of water per day with some dye in it. And he didn't see any come to surface, which means that the septic system doesn't have any leaks and it's up to date. And therefore, with the amount of employees that's going to be going in with the Uniplank, it's going to be roughly about 13 per day. Not a big increase. They will be able to fit right here in the parking. And we have also induced in our code for all existing lighting to hopefully please be put on a timer and be mindful so that way during the hours of operation they will be on, but after that they will be turned off for public, viewing, and you don't really see that all night. I'd like to open this up to the board and the public.
We'll open up to our board first and then we'll open it to the public.
Yes, thank you.
Sean, we'll start with you, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had previously submitted a written report to the board, and the applicant responded to those comments. There were a couple items I think that are still outstanding. Just, I don't think anything requires immediate action by the board this evening. I just want you to be considerate of these items. One is because this is an industrial use, the code allows you to impose a security guarantee and/or an annual fee, such that they would comply with the environmental conditions of the site. You know, that there would be no degradation of environmental conditions, I should say. There are the issue of the design standards. You're familiar with the design standards. Whenever they make an improvement, you have the ability to waive those. It likely would be appropriate in this instance because they're not proposing any changes to the structure to waive those. Parking in your code actually says if you have a non-conforming parking lot, they're required to bring it up to the extent practical. I know they're proposing some changes with the lighting. I don't know if the board wants to consider some requirements with landscaping. They need significantly less parking that's already on site, so I don't know if the board wants to kind of landscape it because it's just going to mostly be a vacant parking lot, as far as I understand. There was some discussion with Frank about whether they're going to require water storage for a fire suppression system. I don't know if the applicants had a chance to discuss that with their architect. Then lastly, on the sign, the applicant's proposed sign is greater than the maximum allowed area under the code. They indicated in their correspondence that they would be seeking a sign area bonus, which you're allowed to grant. I just am unsure whether they qualify for the bonus that they're requesting.
And what reason why?
And I'm trying to do this from memory. My recollection was that the code allows a 15% bonus, an additional 15% of sign area, if it just states the business name.
Without the logo? Without
the logo, but in this particular case, there is no logo, but it says the business name, and then it says something along the lines of like closets and carpentry underneath it. You know, it advertises the use. So I don't know if that actually fits the requirement under the code. I think that if there's any question, it would likely go to the building inspector.
Is there any requirement as far as the material that the sign is made out of? I mean, synthetic versus wood or anything like that?
Synthetic is not prohibited. They can have a synthetic if they were to do it out of wood, and I'm not suggesting they do, but if they do it out of wood, they would also qualify for sign bonus. You've had that before you. Those are all the comments I have.
Thank you. Got a couple. On the site map, where do we have, well, first of all, dumpsters? Or dumpsters or dumpster enclosures for the two different uses now?
Yep. I believe they're in the back, but I will show them on the site plan, so therefore they're there as well. I will call them out as the existing dumpsters.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the business that's coming in here, Uniplank, are they relocating from another facility, another municipality, or is this a brand new business just starting up?
I do not want to speak on the final behalf of the client. I believe they've had other locations before. I haven't had much interaction with that. Ross will stand up for me. But I believe they've had other locations open in the past. I've checked their website before, and it seems as if they've done a lot of production before.
Yeah, if we could find that out,
Yeah, I'll give you a narrative of that.
take a look at the companies if there's any issues.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned, I guess in the report, there's no painting involved or any finishing. Everything's coming finished, you're just gonna be banding the wood,
Yes.
stuff like that. All the scrap material, because obviously you're cutting the stuff to size and there's gonna be scrap. Where is that going? Is that going into dumpsters? Is that, well, obviously not, we're not burying it and burning it.
No.
I mean, is that being hauled away? Is it being stored in the building, outside the building?
I believe they will be able to remain in the existing dumpsters. If you'd like, I could get you approximately a volume amount.
Well, more than the volume, it's just what the plan is.
Yes,
yes. I mean, if the dumpster is designed to accommodate the waste, then so be it.
I understand, and you also don't want a bunch of sawdust out there as well.
Right.
The code. So I understand that as well. You would like that to be removed from the site.
Or if it's being retained inside and then hauled away at some later date when there's enough to take away, that kind of
Yes.
information.
Yeah, I could provide you with more details on that.
Okay. The septic, you had pointed out where that was. That should actually show the septic and the septic tank and everything, not just the cleaners.
Yep.
Phil, yeah, Phil, you're not Phil, Neil.
Come back to me, please.
Yeah?
Come back to me, please.
Okay, Jeremy, Eric,
A quick question, the sawdust, is it going to be a collection system
Yes.
at multiple locations? Is it going to be collected into one vat, if you will?
I can give you a final narrative with that. I believe so. Though. Yes, all the sawdust will be prefabricated. I believe with sawdust collectors. So therefore, it would eliminate in the area as most as possible. And I believe with that, it will all go into one container at the end to be disposed of.
And so I would assume having sawdust would require some kind of fire suppression.
Yep.
And also my second question is the road that you're putting in, the 20-foot road, I mean, it's gravel now, you're gonna pave it?
The applicant and the client has advised that they would remain and leave it as gravel. If the board would like to seek that, they don't need to pave it. It was just to make the access easier going around the back, to make a vehicle path a little bit more accessible. Say if a fire truck needed to go around the back, it would be paved for them, kind of a thing.
That was my question, would it be
Yep.
big enough for a fire truck, I guess? Building inspector.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. So far, what's presented, the access is okay. Maybe if you could double back to me, I do want to talk a little bit about possible fire suppression system.
Okay, that's all.
you indicate in the EAF, there's no additional energy demands. With the equipment that's gonna be used, the mechanical equipment, the saws, the fastening equipment, all that stuff, you think it's a wash for what was actually done with the showroom and for European? It's not gonna increase the energy demand?
I can advise with the applicant to get a report there and include that in the narrative. I cannot speak on personal experience in behalf. I'm not beneath that expertise, I apologize.
No,
But
just-
I understand your concern, we will address that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Gordon?
Is there any outdoor storage proposed?
No. Everything will remain enclosed within the building.
How about tractor trailers delivering raw materials or taking away the finished product? Are any of those gonna be staying overnight, or?
No. No, and I will advise the applicant to include that, so therefore, when we address everything, we will make sure that will be included there, because I understand you don't want trailer parking there overnight. That would be not up to the code.
And with that, if they could include the anticipated number of trips in and out each day?
Yep.
So in the entire building, roughly how many, full-time employees are there now?
10, or 3 actually. Or I apologize, it's 13, and it's gonna remain at 13. It's gonna be proposed 10 for Uniplank, and the European Outdoors is gonna go down to 3 employees, I believe.
All right, for now, that's what I have, thanks.
Seamus?
No, I just wanted to know, is the sawdust waste going to be stored in the building or outside?
I would hope it would be stored in the building, because that would be maybe an environmental hazard if they stored it outside, and that wouldn't be up to the code. So I will get a narrative on that, I apologize.
Are you taking notes on all this, or are you relying on our?
Nope, I got this. It's
Okay.
a concern of the sawdust enclosed, you wanna make sure the existing lighting, all those, the parking, because it's gonna be an open vacant lot, potentially with all, the only 3 employees proposed, to add more landscaping. The trailer loading, make sure we know the days, the traffic of all that.
Yeah, I just don't want you to have to go back and forth
No,
multiple
no, no,
meetings
no.
unnecessarily.
No, you're
'cause you
good,
missed
I'm
things.
sorry, I'm
Okay.
trying, I'm getting it down, I'm gonna go right out to the car and write all this
No,
down,
no, I
don't
didn't know
worry.
she was relying on the recording or.
No, you're good, I'm gonna
Or
make sure
this.
all this is written down, I got
Okay.
this.
Diana?
How long has Uniplank been in this building, operating their business?
I don't believe they've been there yet.
They haven't been there yet? Then how do you know how much electrical use you're going to use and how much sawdust there's gonna be? And like, everything is an estimate, but it also sounds as if you know what's going on. There are 13 people working there now, there is this, it makes it sound like Uniplank has been there all along. So I was just wondering.
No, I apologize. They're not there right now. I've not heard of them being on site and have moved in, done the change without any approval by the board.
If I could just speak, just not, with no disrespect, they are in there and operating,
Oh,
yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
mhm.
I did an inspection, I think last June, just from what I saw from the road, right? I think I spoke about it last time.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's why you're here.
Oh, I sincerely apologize. I was advised otherwise.
So,
I
Have they been
sincerely
operating in
apologize on that
violation?
one, on that behalf.
they've been operating with a potential violation,
Mhm.
depending on how we proceed, right? So they're showing some good faith that they're here, and, you know, I'm working with them as such.
From what you saw
Yep.
when you were out there, does that answer any of the questions that the board's raised or Sean's raised as far as operational considerations?
Yeah, this consideration, so if and when they get approvals here with the planning board, they do have to apply for a building permit. I'm going to be asking for as-built drawings, citing the codes. It's basically a fit-up of what's there.
Mhm.
I spoke with engineer Winglowitz on January 3rd. He in turn reached out to their planning and expediting manager, who is consulting with an architect, so.
Okay.
And I cited, I in turn spoke with that manager as well. My main concern is the fire suppression. I think it's still an open item. Based on what I saw in my preliminary research of the state codes, it's leaning me to believe they do need a fire suppression system. And Sean had mentioned that, you know, a outdoor storage tank, there's a possibility.
Now, are they using real wood, or are they using composites? And
It's a lot of composites, a lot of particle board.
so there's a lot of,
Press board.
all the chemicals that go into putting together press board.
Yeah, they're, from what I saw, they're already like pre-made, but they're notching, drilling for the fasteners to
Right.
put it together, to send out to their end user.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the board?
What you saw, where was the sawdust?
They have a capture system. It seemed like every piece of equipment was collecting the sawdust.
Okay, so each one has its
Each
own
one.
collection?
Yes.
Did you see where they put it, or did you see any storage of it or anything?
Not that I recollect. Maybe bagging it and bringing it outside, right? But I'm going to rely on the architect to start putting all this on paper and citing the codes.
Sure, thanks. Well, if there's no other comments, we have Neil then.
No, I'll wait till after the.
No, go first. You're on the board.
Thank you. I'm okay with that, but anyhow, I think the real concern obviously you're hearing from us is the sprinkler system and fire suppression. I think that's very critical, because otherwise you're gonna be back here after you get this approval, come back and say, now I have to put an underground tank in somewhere. So I just as soon you do that, rather than having to come back again. I think we all would. We're happy to see you, but not that happy.
I wouldn't phrase it that way.
And she's not happy to hear you, but, okay.
No, I sincerely apologize to the
Okay.
board and the public. I apologize.
Okay, the next thing is dumpsters. You have at least 2 locations on the property where you have dumpsters right now. One of them is terrible, because it's seen from the road, and right alongside those dumpsters, you have a pile of pallets. That's also terrible looking. Something has to be done, and you have to make a determination on that. So what you indicated around the back probably makes a whole bunch of sense. The other thing out there is you have at least 6 containers, 5 or 6 containers, I'm sorry. What are they? Why are they? Are you bringing in materials in the containers and then shipping them back out of containers? Are you just using that for storage? In which case, if you're gonna use those 6 containers for storage, that has to be included in your square footage of our consideration anyhow, even if it's not in the building. But I think you have to tell us what's happening with those containers. And I'm not sure that's the right location for them or not, but we'll get beyond that. When did you test the septic system?
Monday to Wednesday.
This week?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
my concern a little bit with that, and Lee, you can help me out here, and Sean. I don't think you're gonna see a whole bunch of water coming through frozen ground. It tends not to come out until the spring, which is when it thaws, then you can see stuff coming out. So I don't know that that's a very valid test. On the other hand, I don't know that septic systems should be overstressed right now. Certainly we're seeing more people out there right now than we've ever seen there before, working there. I don't know, again, I don't know that that's stressing that system at all. If 13 people, I think if you had 20 people, you're still going 300 gallons a day. I don't think that's gonna stress a whole bunch. but it should be provided to us, please. All along, you've been saying that roadway's gonna be paved, and now all of a sudden you went back and said possibly no.
If we don't require it.
I realize we may not require it, or whatever, but we need to know that because a determination needs to be made as to whether or not it'll support fire department apparatus there.
Will that in the calculations for permeable and non-permeable
Yes.
surfaces?
Okay, so we do need to hear that. I think you are gonna have, you probably did have electrical upgrades inside the building, because I suspect that some of your equipment probably is 220 volt, and that was not in the middle of the warehouse for the, or in the middle of the showroom floor for anybody. So we need to know that. Signage. One of the most beautiful signs we've ever had out there for identifying a property was one that we never required, and they actually did a beautiful job right across the street, where the only thing there is these big numbers identifying the address. That's all you really need. You're not doing retail there, I don't think. All you really need to do is get truck drivers to be able to find the place. That sign across the street does all that's needed, and I think it's a great idea. You should consider that at least, even though you could possibly go the other way. The other thing, out front, we talked about doing possibly some landscaping. I think if you look at the original approval, that grass in front of the fence is not supposed to be grass. It's supposed to be wildflowers. I think it still may make sense. We certainly included that originally. It solves having to do some of the landscape or maintenance, but again, you may want to look at that. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
I want to be careful with the wildflowers. I think it needs to be mowed.
Whatever.
I'm just saying.
You know, I'm not sure you're wrong.
Any other comments from the board or anything based on what Neil brought up? If not, we'll go to the public hearing. Before we open the public hearing, just for anyone who wishes to speak, just introduce yourself, where you live, where you come from, and then state your concerns for the record. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make
Eric, second by Neil. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Public hearing is open. If you would just introduce yourself, Mr.
Good evening, my name is Chris Healy. I live in Goshen. I actually live on Howard Court. According to Google Earth, my front porch is approximately 1,700 feet to the applicant's property. So if you're interested what the residents have to say about it, and I believe you are, that's what I'm here to tell you. The operation has been going on for quite some time. It is only because our building inspectors went out and found that they were operating outside of the warehouse restrictions that we know about it. During that time that it's been operating, I am just, as I said, about 1/3 of a mile away. I've never smelled it. I've never heard it. I haven't seen an increase in traffic. I know it's rare for this board to hear me say, it's fine, but in this particular instance, as it is operating, I don't see any problem with the applicant and changing this use from warehouse to light industrial. Now, my concern is that light industrial is a very broad spectrum. And if the operation stays as it is, that is to say there is not a change in intensity of the operation, then I don't think that you're going to hear anything from the neighbors that surround, because we really don't hear it, we really don't smell it. Now, if this operation intensifies and they start doing more, or they make noise, or they change the operation altogether, or the applicant sells the building. They now sell the building and it is zoned light industrial. So the next company that comes in, I would like to know that this board has the best interest of the town and the nearby residents, that we're not going to get increased noise, air pollution, noise pollution, additional traffic. But again, as the operation works right now, I know it's hard for you to hear it from me, but I'm just fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Once, twice? No? No other comments from the public? Comments from the board?
Can I just ask Frank a question?
That's good?
Frank.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Frank, I think if there's a change in intensity, I think it comes back to us, doesn't it?
Right, so I think, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, this will be documented in the resolution. And, yeah, if there's a change in intensity, I would consult with Sean and Kelly to bring it back.
They're operating under a special permit, correct? For this project?
They are, and they would be subject to the same conditions.
Right.
And if it decreases in intensity.
Not an issue.
It's not an issue, but if it increases in the intensity in any of the ways really that Mr. Healy raised,
You'd have
we
to
would
come
be,
back.
yeah, we would be speaking with Frank and say that it needs to come back.
That'd be written in the special permit?
Usually I have conditions in there. I can note that as well, if you'd like. Since it was raised,
Yeah.
we want to make sure.
Is it possible to put something regarding, I mean, we have the noise code, but if something changes in, you know, fumes or smells, or the noise goes above the threshold, I'm just, you know, thinking of the concern if,
So if they go over noise, that would really be Frank and the police, unless it goes under your environmental standards, which was 9750, is it 50? They would have to comply with all of that. If they don't, it would be an enforcement issue. However, for your special permits, what I do is I put it in there consistent with your others, that, you know, if there's any complaints received and they're bounded complaints, they would have to return to you like any year. So an annual checkup, basically, and if there's no complaints, they don't need to return. And they have to, again, be bounded complaints, so.
One question for you. I'm looking at the rendering, the architectural sketch plan, and it shows all the restrooms only on the uniplank side of the building. Do the people that work in European Outdoors go to the bathroom?
No, they don't. They're not allowed.
well, you gotta hold it.
Are they prohibited?
That's why they get paid so
I
much.
don't see access.
European outdoors.
That's what the containers are for. Yeah, that's what the containers are
The men's and ladies container.
for. Ladies container and men's container.
Very good, Kelly.
That's what all those storage bins are in the back for.
I mean, the way it's drawn, there's no access to any of the break rooms, the office, the conference room, the bathrooms, the mechanical rooms. There's nothing there other than just the floor space of European Outdoors. So you may want to just get a better rendering
I'll provide
that shows that they have
architectural-
facilities.
Yes, I'll provide an architectural of also everything in European Outdoors.
Okay.
I apologize,
No.
because that will also be good in
No,
consideration.
that's not your fault.
No, I
Uh,
understand.
Any other comments from the public or the board?
Yeah, you had a good question there, and I think, following up on that, I think not just the restrooms, but the other side of the building has to be able to get access to the electrical control panels and everything else. So either you need to sub-panel it out or something like that, so certainly let's talk about, and that's gonna be Frank's problem, I realize that. So.
Yeah, the mechanicals are all on the opposite end.
Right, so, but if it breaks down and the one side's not there, the other side needs to get to there.
If there's no other comments, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Kelly?
So this is a type 2 action, which you've already declared. We did refer it for GML, and the next step is to authorize the drafting of a resolution, some of which would likely be addressed, the conditions that you talked about tonight by the applicant's narrative, but that's the next step, is to authorize the drafting.
Do we need to see a revised map before,
It's up to you,
as
Mr.
far
Chairman.
as addressing the comments that were raised?
We were discussing that. It's up to the board. I mean, a lot of the questions tonight were from the board. You want to see a map and a revised narrative. The benefit to the town is it can reduce the conditions that Frank
I
and I.
mean, right now, we don't know, as far as the driveway, we don't have the placement of the dumpsters, we don't have bathrooms, we don't have landscaping. Right now, the signage is as they proposed. I just think there's a lot of variables still open right now. But-
I would like to see an updated map. You know, I asked if there was outdoor storage, the answer was no, but,
And yet there's 6 storage
and
trailers.
there is outdoor storage, so.
I'm sorry.
You know, so
They should let you out of the office more often.
I would
I
say
try.
the board does not wish to have a resolution prepared at this time.
Okay. Well, you can always authorize it, and then I can get started, and then you
Yeah, well,
don't have to,
you
you don't
certainly
have
could-
to adopt it,
You could make it a work in progress, absolutely, by all means. That is-
because it would never be in final
Right.
performance related.
Yeah, no. So can we have a motion to authorize council to start the draft of a conditional approval on this project
I'll
application?
place the motion.
Diana, second by
I'll second.
Marty, all in favor, say aye. Against? They'll be in the works.
I'm gonna go to Uniplank tomorrow. I apologize. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Get home safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Life's good.
Sure. Do we have an applicant for the Woods?
Juan is here for Woods.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just, yeah, I was just waiting for someone to set up, but you're doing it on the screen. That's fine. Okay.
The
Next-
modern man.
Next item on the agenda is Woods subdivision, 3-1-39. It's an application for a small-scale subdivision and site plan on 27.2 plus or minus acres along Sour Wells Trail, County Route 8, Victoria Terrace in the village of Goshen. In the RU zone, AQ3, AQ6, scenic road corridor overlays. We're here this evening to commence the seeker process, and we're here for an initial presentation. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Could you just tip us a little?
Yeah, this is all right.
Beautiful, that's fine.
Good. Okay, so I just wanted to present the background for the project, and then just touch on some of the points. There's a few waivers we will be requesting from the board and some determinations that were mentioned in the engineer's review letter. So just to get underway, this project is located in the RU Rural District. It has the scenic corridor overlay, which is just that dash black line right here, the bold line. So for the most part, the majority of that scenic corridor overlay is right here on lot 1, proposed lot 1. And then there's also the two districts, AQ6 and the AQ3. So for the majority of that, AQ6 is in this area here, and then lot 2 and lot 3, where we're proposing those wells, are in the AQ3 district. I do not have that delineation of the limits of those districts on the map, but we will provide an updated map that does show that for the board. So at present, there is this single-family dwelling that's right here. It's served by a well and a septic system as well. And then there is an existing horse barn right here. There's an agricultural use and a residential, and those are both permitted by right in this district. And then we have our two proposed dwellings, which are going to be on lot 2 and on lot 3. And both of these as well are served by proposed wells as well as septic systems on each of these two lots here.
Just to backtrack on that one statement you made. When you pointed to the barn, the agriculture area, you said agriculture and a residence.
Yes.
Where is there a residence shown on that back portion of the lot?
Oh, no, the residence is here.
Oh, that's okay, that's on lot 1.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be clear, because you made it sound like there was one in the back as well with the barn.
Oh, no. So currently it's all one, and
Right.
but in the future it's going to be this dwelling with this barn. Yeah.
Okay?
So yes, the existing house does have its own septic system here, and it was recommended that we do dye testing. So we will do the dye testing when the weather permits and submit that, the results of that to the board. We have conducted percolation tests in the proposed septic system areas. We still do need to do the deep test, so weather permitting, we'll add that to the plans as well. And that's it just for the background. There are several waivers we're asking for. I can just present them to you if you want to, make a determination, or we can circle back.
We wouldn't necessarily be making a determination tonight, if it's even one that we issue.
Okay. So the first one would be subdivision of land code 8319 definitions. It defines a minor subdivision as any lot adjustment or any subdivision or series of subdivisions containing no more than 4 lots over a 10-year period, not involving a new street or road or the extension of municipal facilities. A small-scale development or conservation density development is a minor subdivision. So just the last time that this was subdivided was in, I believe it's May of 2004, so it's past that 10-year window. And we're only proposing 2 new lots at this time. So we would want to request that this be classified as a minor subdivision, and then just going along with that, zoning code 97-19, standards for small-scale development, part A states that small-scale development is any development of land that results in the creation of no more than 4 new residential lots, excluding the parent parcel from which they are subdivided. So again, we are just creating 2 lots at this time. So we would also ask for the board to make this classification as a small-scale development.
You say at this time, is that something that goes into the resolution, that there will be no further subdivision? That back portion particularly, I mean, it does impact where the driveways, access points are and stuff like that. If there's any consideration down the road of any further subdivision.
Yeah, I mean, so at this time, we're just proposing 2. There isn't any plans to further subdivide this. If the board would like to make that a resolution of approval, I know the majority of this here is just the horse farm that the applicant has, and just the pasture area and paddocks. But at this time, there's no further plans to subdivide.
And the gravel access drive that goes from lot 1 straight through to the barn, is that going to be terminated so the barn is exclusively for lot 2?
Yes, so at present, the only utility that goes to the barn from this lot is actually just the electric, which will be run from the extension of the private road into the barn. And this, I believe the plan is to terminate it. I can go over that with the client. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So then, subdivision of land code section 8318 says that private road states that the applicant shall provide for adequate long-term maintenance and repair of private roads. A homeowners association shall be created to maintain the private roads serving more than 4 lots, unless the planning board finds that a recorded maintenance agreement will be sufficient. So we were asking for that from building inspector Leva to confirm that this is indeed a private road. There is, I neglected to mention this, there's 2 ways to access this property at present. In the town of Goshen is Sarah Welsh Trail, County Route 8. This is a paved driveway coming in from here now, and that's in the town side. And then in the village side, there's this gravel private road that comes in, and it currently just serves these 2 dwellings here that are not part of this application. So part of that is just the determination that it is indeed a private road, and it would serve
You
as...
said lot 1 is a paved road going in? Because on
It
the
is.
plan it says gravel drive.
Yeah, when we did the survey, I guess it was when they did the flyover and everything, but now it is a paved road.
It is paved, okay.
Yeah, I'll make that update. Thank you for noting. And the intent, it's not on the map, but we will add it. The intent is for the extension of the private road as well as the new driveways to be paved as well. So there is a requirement as well for, it's a subdivision of land code, section 8319B. The landscaping requirements state that the planning board shall require the planting of street trees on all lots fronting on existing and new streets. This requirement may be waived in wooded areas where existing vegetation is retained or in areas where such trees would block scenic views. So I did just have a few photos of these accesses today. So this is the existing private road, the lesser important one since it's in the village of Goshen. But this is our company truck here in blue. and that's where the extension would start. So as you see, there is an abundance of trees there. It is a heavily wooded area, and none of these trees would be touched with this subdivision. And then the existing driveway going into that existing house, that would be part of proposed lot 1. This is how it looks. I just went out there. I think I took this yesterday or the day before. And as you see, there's an abundance of trees here, and there's even a lot of evergreen trees, so you can't see the existing home. And there is an increase in elevation of 50 feet from the road going up into the property, and then the house is on the backside, like almost in a valley there. And these two proposed homes as well would be on the back side of that hill or that mound, so you wouldn't see them from the road. So we were just asking for a waiver to not provide those street trees, since there's an abundance. Yeah. Since we did perform the percolation test and we're gonna perform the deep test, we were asking for a waiver from providing the environmental control formula, since we are in the RU district and the board is allowed to waive that requirement in that district. Provided that we provide septics, the soils, and testing and analysis to the satisfaction of the planning board. And then each of these 3 lots, they do meet all of the bulk requirements, each of them for the zoning for the property. Lot 1, it's been designed as a standard lot in the AQ6 district, and it meets those requirements. Lot 2 is seen as a rear lot in the AQ3 district, and then the lot 3 is seen as a standard lot in the AQ3 district, and all 3 lots meet the bulk requirements for that. There was a question in regards to
Now, you said lot 3 is a standard lot. Why would that not be a back lot also, the fact that it's fronted by other properties and residences?
So just the definition, I mean, it could be. The only thing that makes the change here is that at present, with this being a standard lot, it has a 50-foot front yard and a 50-foot rear yard setback. And it requires a road frontage of 200 feet, which it meets all of those things. If it were to become a rear lot, it would only need 30 feet on each side, and it would only need a road frontage of 25 feet. So it meets it either way. But if you, in the code, it does say that rear lots, zoning code 9719 standards for small scale development states that rear lots with or without access strips running to public or private roads may be created, or they will not endanger public health and safety and will help preserve natural, historic, and scenic resources. So if the board wanted to consider it a rear lot, I'm not opposed to it either, but we just designed it for that standard lot. Just
Sean, do you want to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, I think, and again, Mr. Chairman, this is a determination for the building inspector, it's a determination of the zoning code, but I don't know, where is the frontage? One is that it has 200 feet of frontage, it looks to be landlocked.
on the private road, the frontage would be on the private.
I don't think the code allows for the frontage on a private road, but again, I think that one would go, I just kind of want to divide as to what the applicant's asking you this evening and what would have to go to the building inspector.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one you can put in Frank's category.
I think also all of these waiver requests need to be submitted to you in writing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we're not going to take any action on these this evening, for sure.
Okay. And then there are some necessary easements, because since we do not want the homeowners association, and the threshold for the homeowners association is when there's more than 4 lots that share a private road. And currently there's only 2, these 2, and we're adding 2 more. So it would not cross that threshold. We would just want to do it with a deed of easements. So we will provide those easements to the planning board in the future. There was a thing about the bats, and we'll just, prohibit the clearing of trees between April and October. And then there was a note that the EAF stated that the site is located adjacent to areas designated as a sensitive area for archaeological sites for SHPO. So if the board does feel it's necessary, we can submit to SHPO. Yeah.
It will be necessary, but I'll email him. So he won't have to do anything until he gets my email.
Very good. Thank you. You have other issues you wanted to bring up?
That's all. Thank you for
No?
listening.
No, I appreciate it. Sean, if you want to weigh in on your concerns.
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. So there are some issues with this. I don't know if the board is aware that common driveway goes out to Victoria Terrace, so the applicant actually owns two parcels here. One is in the village, the other, the vast majority of the applications in the town. When the applicant first came to the staff meeting, I think it was in March, he suggested they discuss with the village whether the village would require an approval. My understanding is the village directed the applicant to come to you first, and then they would be making a determination, but I think that they indicated site plan approval would likely be required for that driveway, right?
I can't, I'm not 100% sure. I think I submitted an email that said I had their response to it. It might be, but they do want to consider it after we appeared before this board.
So there is the interplay with the village of
Which would be
Goshen.
the equivalent of that warehouse on Police Drive.
It is very similar, but it's a reverse situation, Mr. Chairman. That one was development in the village that had a driveway in
Yeah,
town. This is the
reverse. But meaning where it was two municipalities because of the access driveway.
That's correct, yeah. So again, 3-lot subdivision, applicant's proposing small scale. The 3 lots is the one existing and the 2 new. I think this will likely meet the requirement for a minor subdivision. Minor subdivisions in your code require a public hearing, and I just want to remind the board that you need to complete seeker before you have the public hearing because it's a requirement of seeker. I believe that they meet the density requirements. There was a note on the plan that said that they are going to perform well testing. Unless Frank advises otherwise, the zoning code does not require that they perform well testing. However, and I see Neil getting ready to jump in, an appendix to the zoning code, the well protocol says any subdivisions of 3 or more lots. So there is a discrepancy in your code. I believe in the past, Neil may have been of the opinion while he was a building inspector that the zoning code prevails in this case. Again, Frank would have to weigh in on that, and I mentioned that in my memo. I believe, and again, this one goes back to Frank, that lots 2 and 3 are both private roads. You, as in your review for private roads, you have to confirm access for fire, police, and emergency services. I recommend you refer this to the fire department if it already hasn't been by the building department. Also, it hasn't been?
Not the
Okay, Kelly's gonna do that. Also, there's a requirement that private roads not have any like environmental degradation. The applicant's proposing some impact to some wetlands. I don't know if that is considered environmental degradation in your code, but it's something that you have to consider as you move forward with this application. Lot 2, we talked a little bit about whether it's a rear lot, and 1 identified the different yards. I'm sorry, lot 3. Oh, I missed one. This is an unusual lot. So for example, 1, can you kind of show where you're calling the front yard and the rear yard?
Yeah, so, I'm looking at this right. I believe this is the rear yard here. I mean, the front, I misspoke. This is the front yard, this would be the rear yard, and these would be the side yards in this instance. But it is unusual in that the shape of the road and where the right of way is.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying it should go to Frank just to confirm that he agrees
That
with
is
this.
just front yard off of the private drive.
Yeah, yeah. There is also a requirement on rear yards for lot width. It's not in the actual table, but it's in the text of the codes. The applicant's gonna have to provide that and confirm if they meet that. I don't know if they do. Scenic road, you have a chance, can you zoom out? I don't wanna rush it. So the applicant showed the scenic road, and there's no development within the scenic road in terms of structures. You know, this board's used to, somebody comes over with a pool, it's greater than 500 square feet, they need site plan approval. There's also another provision in there, essentially if there's any alteration or grading that you can see from the scenic road in the winter. I don't know if there is or is not. So Sarah Wells is scenic road in this case. I think the applicant may want to provide you with some photographs to convince you that there is no disturbance for grading, or you may want to conduct a site visit to see if you think you can see the proposed grading from the scenic road. The issue for the applicant is that if you make that determination that there will be grading in excess of 5,000 square feet that you can see from the scenic road in the winter, they also need site plan approval in addition to subdivision approval. Realty subdivision is not required in this case. Stormwater, they will need coverage under the general permit. They have 3.5 acres of disturbance, but since it's a single-family residential and it meets certain criteria, the SWIP only has to have an erosion sediment control plan, so you're not gonna see a SWIP report. I believe, unless Kelly thinks otherwise, that it's an unlisted action under seeker, and that's all I have, unless the board has any questions.
That's it.
That's all.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
One question for you. The EAF says that you have to submit to the Orange County Health Department. Why is that?
Be careful.
There was a checklist item that just stated that if it was required, I think I just wrote it in there in the concept
You
phase.
probably want to take it out.
I want to take it out. Thank you.
Other comments, questions, concerns?
I got a couple.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
All right, good. I want to see the AQ3, AQ6 lines there on there, please.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I just don't even know the village's code. I realize they want us to come back later, but it would be nice to know whether the code even allows 4 houses on a private driveway. Since that's what we're going to do, having a private driveway in their town is going to handle 4 houses. The width and the height of that driveway is going to be significant, more so than before, because now we're going to have to get fire trucks through there, and we want to make sure we have at least 13'6" in height, and who's going to maintain that, and whatever else Frank needs. And I'm not sure what the total length that is, and whether you have to have a bump out to provide passage of fire trucks on the operation.
Bump out and adequate turnaround at the end.
Right, yeah, yes, and soon they're gonna be able to get that turnaround, but that's basically it. And thank you, it was a pretty darn good presentation.
So I would love to see maybe an enlargement of this initial driveway area before the house on lot 3, between Victoria, and there's just so much going on in there. And at least the version that we have is not super legible.
2 and 3.
So we could just get an enlargement of that.
There's 2 existing already off the road. That one and this one.
I assume
These
that
2 already
easement
subdivided.
for the driveway off of Victoria has been effectuated, or you know it can be? The private drive off of Victoria,
So, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
you're gonna need an easement to use the current gravel drive off of Victoria?
Yeah, so the easement will be put in place, yeah, for the 2 additional homes.
So that's either underway or you know it can be?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that's all.
Go ahead.
My questions are, getting back to the easements. The easements is gonna have to not only be egress, it's gotta be utility easements. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to get anything in there. And so, and to be able to get electricity there, right? So you know that. Also, you mentioned the barn. The barn is now gonna be part of lot 2, I believe, right? So how is it gonna be access for like a fire truck to put the barn out? You won't be able to go through lot 1 any longer because it's gonna be isolated, right? That road and utility boxes and all the access for utilities is gonna be disconnected, right? So how are you gonna get to that barn and put that fire out when the hay catches on fire or something like that? God forbid, you know? So I would assume there'd be some kind of access road or something that a fire truck, it can hold a fire truck to get near the barn. That would be Frank also, I would assume.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the fire code one to see if it's even required. I'm not so sure it is. If it's truly agricultural, I mean, there's barns out all over the county that don't have a fire department access road. But I'll leave it up to you to look at that code in detail to see. Maybe you could clarify what it's being used for. I mean, I just see the word barn on a rectangle. Is it truly an agricultural structure, right? So,
Yeah.
No office, no anything like that?
Yeah, it's just a horse barn. I've been in there. It's just literally a bunch of horses. It's quite beautiful. When you guys tour it, you'll enjoy it.
I think it might, generally the agricultural buildings are exempt from the building code, but I'm not so sure about the fire code. We do screwy things sometimes.
My last question is, whoever owns the road, is the village gonna permit extension of utilities and stuff? Do you know that?
Not at this point. I mean, they have seen the plan, they have discussed it as a board,
Okay.
but they just want us to go back to them after we make progress with this board.
And there's no water on the terrace, right?
Victoria Terrace is water.
There's water, so
There's water.
is there any plans of extending water through there?
Well, that's
They would be
village.
Yeah, so they would be an out-of-village user.
Well, village supplies Goshen with water in some areas, right? I'm just saying, are they looking to do that?
At this point, no, we're proposing wells.
Okay. Because the village serves Goshen, town of Goshen, it's in many areas.
I don't think they like to do that anymore. The one we dealt with towards Florida, they were making them get rid of their Village of Florida water hookup.
That is just the Village of Florida, two different, they operate differently. The
Yeah.
Village of Florida has
Goshen
concerns
feeds
about
town in many
safety.
places, the village.
Just
Just a thought.
Other comments from the board?
To Jeremy's point, if we could get a clearer blow up of the driveway up until the first new house, because there is a lot going on there, and there's some wetlands that I guess the driveway is going through. Doesn't go any bigger. So, just for clarification, are we calling this a private road, or is it a shared driveway?
I would like to call it a private road, but I believe Frank makes that.
There'll be different standards as far as construction.
Right,
Yeah.
and also in reading Sean's memo, he's got that footnote 5, right? The code defined private road as a privately owned road held in common ownership or easement by a homeowners association. So we would need to establish that. I would consult with Kelly to make sure that's in effect, for me to say, hey, this is a private road, and then we could talk about the construction.
And then if it was a private road, then you could consider the frontage along that private road, correct?
I believe
As
so.
opposed to a driveway.
One thing I just want to point out, and I believe this is going in the right direction, it's a private road rather than a common driveway, which the code does not allow. The private road standards reference the town street specifications in terms of width and composition and everything like that. When I reviewed the street specifications for the town, there is no specification for private roads. So now the question becomes, does that mean that they have to develop this private road to the lowest classification of a town road? Or can they receive some sort of relief either from this board or from the ZBA? And I don't have the answer to that question.
So not from this board, and arguably not from the ZBA. However, I believe that the prior building inspector had private roads constructed basically up to public road specs because there wasn't anything else. So if there was the common driveway and then the private road, which was built up. So
And it's still gonna come into play depending on what emergency services says.
that's a
It's
big.
gonna drive it as well.
And to Eric's point, if you could show on the map how even just vehicles or tractors are gonna get to that barn, because I would assume there's gonna be a gravel road somewhere from the new house up to the barn. So if we could have that shown on the map, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I can talk to my client on that. I don't know if I mentioned it, but they're taking lot 2, and lot 1 is actually for their children, and lot 3 is for their children as well. They're giving the house to the one child, and they're building another house for a child. So I believe if at present, they would want to just have that access.
But they could be
sold
sold
someday.
tomorrow.
It will
That's
be
when all
sold.
the issues
yeah.
happen, when it gets
It will be
sold.
sold, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
They're not my parents.
But I will talk to the client and see what type of access we can put on there.
We won't be around, but it'll be sold someday.
All right, thanks, that's all I have.
Other comments? Seamus? Diana?
Not at this time.
Neil, anything else?
I have none.
Jeremy? Eric? Sean? Kelly?
So at this time, what the board can do is you can declare your intent to serve as lead agency, and you can type the action as unlisted.
Okay, could I have said motion?
I'll place motion.
Diana, second by? Who did I catch? Seamus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay.
And that's all you can do right now.
George Goshen's gonna be,
Yep, right now I've got Army Corps, SHPO, DEC, Village of Goshen, keep it.
They also have to be notified of their general rituals.
Well, that's only for the He did this one.
you just keep me on your toes for a second.
It's true, it's a valid concern.
I have just
Okay.
two questions.
You have a few questions.
Yeah, hey, may I?
Go ahead.
Okay, who do I arrange the, site visit for the planning board?
The building department.
Right, and then, okay. And then, did you want to witness the deep test?
No, not, I don't know, Sean, that's a question for town engineer.
Okay.
Sean, you wanna
There's-
go?
There's no requirement for witnessed soil tests. The way this board has done it in the past is you've given the building inspector the ability to have me out in the field when the system's constructed. It's up to the board whether you want me to witness a deep test. And those are essentially excavations to about 8 feet deep to review the soil profile.
It probably would not be a bad idea. I mean, we've got curtain drains going on both lots. We've got soils that have very poor percolation, drainage. So it would be beneficial to see exactly what kind of soil profile we have.
Sure. Happy to do so.
The board feels the same way?
I agree, and I know in the past we've had real issues where we've had people out there on a subdivision, out there for 32 days to try to find the locations for 28 septic systems. So they do get very complicated, and I think it's appropriate.
What does the board feel?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay.
So I'm arranging that with Sean?
You'll coordinate that with Sean?
You'll need to have money, an escrow for him.
Shale that comes right to the surface.
I was gonna say, Sean doesn't work for free yet.
Sometimes it feels like it.
It may feel like it, but.
Bring it to-
Any other questions?
Said I look forward to seeing you guys on site for a site visit.
Well,
Thank you.
we appreciate your involvement with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's too small in the resolution.
Sean, that brings us to you.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman. So on
February
Thursday,
6th.
yeah, February 6th meeting, right now I have two extensions, Silhouette Farm and Northern Bear. Northern Bear is a type of extension because you closed the public hearing. You have a public hearing for the Gerda lot line change. Bachman should be back.
Aren't we going too fast?
I'm sorry. Gerda lot line change, public hearing.
Okay?
Bachman, public hearing.
The garage.
That is, yes. Unit Plank, you decided you don't want on, and you received a new application today, student bus, which is on Industrial Drive.
So I thought that would be an initial.
Yeah, it's initial and to start seeker.
Okay?
Bring an overnight bag.
No, I don't think it'd be too
Not
bad.
with this,
I'm not sure.
Any other issues the board needs to raise? If not, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
Can I just?
I'll make the motion.
You don't speak up fast.
I don't want to start a conversation tonight, but a couple meetings ago, Jeremy actually started a conversation about, I'll blame it on you, no, but Jerry actually started concerns about, hey, when we review projects, sometimes they sit there long enough that it almost feels like there's a need to go back and re-look at certain things. This came up in particular about the traffic along 17M. I think we maybe have to start looking at stuff like that. We have had other projects that are out there for probably 10 or 15 years. That things may have changed since then. I know certainly things with the DEC for stormwater, certainly things with DEC with threatened or endangered species. I just think we have to come up with some kind of standard by which when people keep on coming back for 10 to 15 years, or 5 years.
I know with the county projects, we now have a 5-year sunset clause on plans. So it gives, if it's not,
What'd you say? Sorry, 5-year what?
5-year sunset.
We have done that on some of the, like, endangered species. If you recall, back when the northern long-eared bat got added to the list. We had to revisit a couple of projects because that now came up with.
That, and then one of the other things is the DEC is looking to change the definition and sizing of wetlands. So that could impact plans that were, I don't know if it's
Didn't that happen January?
grandfathered or.
It happened in January and they have some transitional regulations.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to all work through that.
Is there any problem with us saying, look, you have to make it 5 years? After 5 years, when you come back in to extend it or whatever, now we're gonna start looking at things again?
It could be. It could be under secret, yeah. So,
I knew you were gonna say that.
I can't give you a definitive answer, but yes.
Or at least give us the right to do it, even if we don't necessarily start the process over on the project.
I'm not looking to start the process over, I'm looking, maybe there's new information, and since they didn't get final approval.
Well, you can't just, new information, change of circumstances, things like that are how you can go back and do reviews. But it has to be like a substantial new information, a substantial change of circumstances, and there has to be documentation of that. It can't just be somebody coming in and saying, I think I saw an arrowhead on the property.
No, no,
So, I'm bad at examples, so that's what I came up with.
Good enough.
So there's times when you can, there's times when you can't. I bring up northern long-eared bat because that's the time when I know that we did. And they are adding, they're doing stormwater, but at least in terms of the species, they're adding more. And so those are things that should be looked at, depending on how far it's made in the process.
And I think the prevalence of some threatened or endangered species has expanded in the area.
Yeah.
I know they have on my farm.
And but I just don't want to put a time limit on it because that can get you into trouble, and it's not really a policy call for you guys.
And the other concern, I think, is back to Jeremy's concern about traffic.
Jeremy, God.
No, he's a troublemaker. But no,
I'm
I
ready
think,
for bed and he's ready to push.
no, I think that traffic is an issue, particularly we always talk about in terms of approval, background growth. Well, if you're out there 15 years already before you've done anything, that background, some of that background growth has already happened, and maybe in a bigger amount than we ever thought of.
That could come into play with vested rights, so you might have to look at that. Leave, just want to leave it. Honestly, it depends, and it would be a case by case basis.
In which case, I think maybe we should look at going forward, holding back giving conditional final approvals until some of these conditions are really met. We seem to have that. Would that help us?
I'm gonna again say it depends,
No.
and that doesn't also, there are, let me say this. You could potentially be inviting litigation by doing that, but there are certain conditions that maybe you do want to be, like a long time ago, I remember the board would say, you know what, and you push landscaping off until like the very end. You guys have stopped doing that, so that needs to be addressed now. So maybe there's some like that. I can't really think of any off the top of my head because I'm spent.
I mean, we've had stuff in the past where we've had 80 conditional approval, 80 conditions as an approval.
Well, that
Those
was
usually,
Or I was gonna say heritage.
stopped in 2009.
I-
I did not want to draft those after that.
No, and I think to keep those to a minimum would make more sense because then we have more review of it. And the
Well, it's easier to
potential-
keep track of them too.
Yeah,
But anyway, do we have a motion to close?
You do from
I'll
Mark.
make that.
And a second by Jeremy.
Neil? Do we have a second?
Second.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Anyone? We're out of here.